1 pound and 12 ounces, I was born. Now, compared to the average size of a newborn baby, I came relatively 7 to 8 pounds lighter. I mean, guys, I had the best diet in that womb. I mean, even the 8 power rounds of Tebu couldn't beat me. I was a rock star. But you see, as the common saying is, especially for my ladies, beauty is pain. And I came in 27 out of the 42 weeks. And here's why. A little over 16 years ago, my mother took her first trimester blood test, which came abnormal. She then took her second trimester blood test in pregnancy, which also then came abnormal. Yet, she felt completely normal. Later on, she got the blood test results and she had alpha-fetoprotein. Alpha-fetoprotein had 3 possibilities. Number 1, I had a twin, which sadly isn't the case. Number 2, I have an intestine growing outside of my own body, which is absurd. And number 3, a lack of brain, which clearly isn't the case. Now, taking this in knowledge, my mom, feeling normal yet receiving these results, decided to go to the ultrasound room. She faces the doctors as they begin scanning. First doctor, sorry ma'am, it seems to be like there's no problem. I think you're completely fine. Second doctor, sorry ma'am, it seems to be like there's no problem. Maybe you should just go home. They then later sent my mom to a high-risk gynecologist named Dr. Xavier Bomper. I remember as my dad would describe this man as he walked into the room, adjusting the screen, and he began scanning. Although his scans were like zooms. First zoom, second zoom, third zoom, and ladies and gentlemen, forget a matter of minutes. In a matter of seconds, he was able to pinpoint a homogynia growing on my mom's placenta, which took 2/3 of the blood nutrients and leaving 1/3 left for me. Meaning, I only got 1/3 of my cheesecake. Now, with that being said, Dr. Xavier Bomper simply predicted an early delivery. 4 days go by, and my mom feels no baby bumps. She would go to the ultrasound room, or the doctors in the hospital, and instead of expecting an ultrasound or more tests, she'd be faced with a bunch of doctors like this. "Oh no, sweetheart, you're just excited, it's okay." And a bunch of more doctors like this. "No, sweetheart, you're overthinking this, it's okay, you're just pregnant, it's okay." My mom then decided to take her home and she went home. Yet 2 days later, she still felt no baby bumps. I wonder why. So then later on, she goes and asks my dad, "Hey, like, I feel no baby bumps, you know, what's going on?" My dad would look at her and tell her, "Don't worry, just set it aside, it's all right." Later on that day, my dad went to work, and he noticed that his colleague was not available. That colleague was the type of colleague that you would say shows up almost every single day to work. So my dad goes up to his boss and he's like, "Hey, like, my colleague isn't here, like, what's going on?" His boss would look at him and tell him this: "Your colleague is unavailable because his sister died due to a pregnancy complication." You know what happened right there? You know what happened right there? My dad immediately rushed to the phone, started calling my mom, told her, "Go to the hospital." You know what my mom was doing on the other end? She was already going to the hospital. Now, what happened after that is they sent my mom to the ultrasound room and she was being monitored for 4 hours. Not a single word said. And you know what was happening? Behind the scenes, which it was an ultrasound technician scanning and noticing that I was fatigued and I was too tired, and they were basically planning a helicopter appointment to Rush Hospital. All that just behind the scenes. So what happens was that they go up to my mom and they're like, "You know what, we actually can't deliver her at Rush Hospital. We were planning and all this, blah, 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 while you're being monitored for 4 hours. In fact, we're gonna get you delivered right here, right now at Cross Hospital." And there we were. Next day later, my parents get a call from the doctors saying, "What? we need to pull the cord off the ventilator. Why, you may ask? Because I looked a little like this. With all these wires and tubes around, my parents decided to have a meeting with the doctors and an Islamic scholar, deciding one decision, whether or not they want to pull the cord off. I remember as the doctors would say they want to pull the cord off, let's pull it off, like, she's not going to be able to live. One doctor looked at my dad and told him this: your daughter will not make it. And if she does, she's going to be severely disabled. My dad would look at the doctor and go like this: I will do anything it takes for my daughter to have a healthy and safe life, whether or not she is disabled. The doctor then looked at my dad and said, no. I don't think you understand. Your daughter has an 85% chance of not being able to walk, not being able to talk, and not being able to see. Wait, did I mention not being able to walk? Later on, 6 years later, ladies and gentlemen, of committed specialists and tests, we were able to confirm that I was a healthy and normal baby. Alhamdulillah. Now, what I want to try to get to you guys from this wonderful and rosy story is that my parents didn't get the delivery that they expected. Instead of all the flowers and balloons and smiling face doctors that looked a little like this, they never got that. Instead, those balloons were replaced with the cords that looked like that. And every single time my parents walked inside the hospital, they never saw doctors like this. In fact, they saw doctors like this every single time they walked inside, because every single prediction that went out of their mouth sunk their hearts 6 feet below the ground. Now, the only thing that I want you guys to understand is that my parents trusted their gut. You see, we're going to face situations where we have our decisions, yet we don't understand that as we get older, our decisions are solely based on our environment and what other people are telling us. We don't understand that we have other resources that we know because we limit it to based on what the options the people give at the moment. A neuroscientist named Antonio Damasio conducted a study and told us one thing. He told us to listen to our somatic markers. Originated in the insula, which is the part of the brain that is responsible for the social cues, such as pride or guilt, and the amygdala, which is that small, teeny part of the brain that is responsible for knowing when something doesn't feel right and responds to threats. These two parts of the brain, ladies and gentlemen, tells you what you feel and when you feel like something doesn't feel right. Now, what happened was that Antonio Damasio conducted a study, and he did an experiment on a couple amount of people, and he took 2 sets of cards. One deck in the Iowa gambling task, one deck was a deck of cards that was too good. The other deck was a deck of cards that was too risky. Now, one thing they noticed was that the people who were already 10 cards into the too risky pile were already facing anxiety levels that have reached before their irrational thoughts. What this shows is that we tend to feel when something doesn't feel right before we even begin to think. Now, let me give you guys another story. When I was around the age of 14 or 15, I felt I had a stomach ache, right? And I had this stomach ache, and I would go up to my mama and be like, hey mama, I have a stomach ache. Mama was stirring her pot, and she looked at me and she's like, jump. Girl, what? What do you mean you want me to jump? My stomach hurts. And then she was stirring her pot, and she looked at me and she said, you heard me, jump. Now what? My stomach still hurts. She was mixing that pot, and she proceeded to ask me this. How do you feel? Mama, my stomach hurts. She kept mixing the pot, and then she looked at me, and then she set her spoon aside, and then she told me this. Layan, Melhem, you are your own doctor. What? At that age, I was completely baffled. What do you mean you're my own doctor? Mama, my stomach hurts. But what my mom was trying to get here was that she was trying to influence my environment as little as possible. Because I knew, and she knew, that around the age of 14 and 15, I knew what Panadol and green tea and Tylenol looked like. And I've also experienced the pain of what it takes to need to go to the doctor from a stomach ache. What she was trying to do here was she was trying to influence my environment as little as possible. Because when people give us options, knowing that we know our own resources, they give us the options, yet we respond with the inclination, we incline to only choose between the options they give us, not knowing our background resources, not knowing that a problem as small as a stomach ache or as big as pulling the cord off a ventilator could be influenced based on your environment and not your own gut. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to understand here and what I'm trying to get here to you guys is not don't listen to your doctors or, deny every single treatment, but what I'm trying to understand and get to you guys here is that you trusting your gut and you telling yourself and believing in yourself does not make you paranoid. You are not paranoid. And in fact, what I like to say is that the gut inside of you is a voice that is wordless. Thank you.